Hey guys, welcome back to my corner. I just wanted to take a second to thank everyone for all the sweet messages, the likes, the shares, the follows. I truly appreciate it and just am so overwhelmed with all the support and love that you guys have shown me. So I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Keep sharing, keep telling your friends and family about it. And yeah, let's get started with that. For this episode, I figured it's February, it's el mes del amor, so why not talk about my love life and tell you guys a little bit more about me and my husband and our story and how everything got started. So first of all, my name is Adriana Castillo. That's my birth name. And ever since I was little, I have just been called Adi because my mom's name is also Adriana. So in order to know who people were talking to, like at home, I guess me dieron el apodo de Adi, and that's how I've been known all my life, basically. So that's what I go by. And yeah, so I am 30 years old. I am Mexican American, and I was born in Orange County in California. So my family used to live in California up till I believe I was 5 years old, and then we moved to Detroit. Don't ask me why. I've asked my parents many times, but everything happens for a reason. So we ended up in Detroit till I was about, I don't remember my exact age, but I know I was in third grade because in third grade we actually moved to the suburbs in Woodhaven. It was a small little town back then. They moved us over there, and I basically grew up in Woodhaven. So fast forward a few years, when I am in, I was in ninth grade, and my husband and his family moved out to Woodhaven. So that is actually, we knew of each other, just if you are Catholic, you know que in Detroit hacen muchos grupos, and he was from one grupo de oración and I belonged to a different one. And so most of our life we knew of each other, like our families knew each other, and every now and then we would see each other like in retiros, just church outings basically. And so we always knew of each other, but it wasn't until we were in high school that his family actually moved to Woodhaven, and that's actually how everything got started. He actually would send me little love notes and recados with his sister, so shout out to my cuñada for being our little messenger back in the day. And yeah, that's kind of how we got started. We were 15 and we just hung out as friends, talked, got to know each other. And I believe I was 15 and he was 16 when we actually became boyfriend and girlfriend, like made it official. So fast forward a few more years, and now we are in 2015. And in that time, we actually took a trip to California, and we took our siblings with us. I had my two brothers, and he had his brother with us. And we went to California, where he actually planned to ask me to marry him. So he had it all planned out. We went to Disneyland. For those of you that don't know, I love Disney. Ever since I was a little girl. Obviously, with living in California, my parents used to take me there a lot. So I am a big Disney fan. And he actually planned it I kind of planned it out because I planned the trip without knowing I was going to get proposed to. And I just remember I wanted to go see the fireworks that night, and we went, I think, an hour before the show, and I wanted to be like right in front of the castle. So I made it really easy for him to get like the best spot and the best pictures. And I remember my brothers obviously knew at that time, but like I never caught on. Like looking back now, I'm like, they were so suspicious that I should have known, but I think I was just so excited about being in Disneyland that like se me pasó. Like nunca vi the signs. I never felt anything. But regardless, we saw the show, the parade went on, the fireworks, the castle was lit up, and I think it was like the last song that was playing where he actually got down on one knee and asked me to marry him. And obviously I said yes, and like everyone cheered for us, and it was just amazing. It was perfect, and it was just magical, to be honest. And yeah, so ever since we were dating, we always talked about obviously wanting a family and getting married. And le dije a Chava desde el principio that I wanted a big family. I think I told him I wanted 8 kids back in the day, and he was like, maybe 4. But ever since I can remember, I told him I wanted 8 kids, and I've always wanted a big family. So obviously everything was coming together. We were engaged, we came back home, and we started planning the wedding. And I think we took about a year to plan everything, and we got married July 23rd, 2016. And this year will actually be 8 years that we've been married. So yay to us. No. But yeah, it was really fun. We talked about wanting to wait, before we had kids, we wanted to travel. There was things that we wanted to do as a couple, and just obviously get to know one another and live together. And, we bought our home before we got married, and it was going to be something new for both of us, that of living together and having the responsibilities. So we just wanted some time for ourselves and just to settle in and just figure out our rhythm before we brought kids in. So we actually got married, and then we just got flooded with questions from everyone. And if you're Mexican, I don't know if anybody else's culture does this, but I feel like the minute we got married, like the next day, it was like a switch that went off for everyone, and people started asking us like, when are you gonna have kids, and y los niños pa cuando, and just saying a lot of comments. And me and Chow would always be like, no, like we wanted 2 years of no kids. Like we just wanted to be us, travel, and just do some things on our bucket list before we actually got pregnant. And people would, every time they asked us, y les decíamos, no, like ahorita no, and we don't want them right now, and just different things. And sometimes people would say like, oh, be careful with what you say because you never know what can happen in the future. Or people would tell us like, you shouldn't wait, you should have kids right away because what if there's a problem? And we were just like, you're crazy. Like everyone gets pregnant. Like it's not a big deal. And yeah, it was just, I never really minded people asking, but we knew what we wanted, and we knew we wanted to wait. So it never bothered me at the time. And fast forward to 2000, and so we got married in 2016. I believe it was 2018. We were married for like a year and a half. Yeah. And I remember it because it was actually one of my high school friends' weddings, and I won't say her name, but if she watches this, she'll know it's her, because she actually got married right before Christmas, and we were actually at her wedding, and we had been talking about, like, we think we're ready, like, we're almost at the 2-year mark, and just feeling like we were ready to start a family and wanting that to happen. And I don't know how to describe it. Like, I feel like when if you plan it out, like we just had a feeling that we were like, you know what, we're ready. It hadn't been quite the 2 years, but we were like, by the time we actually get pregnant and the baby's here, like, it'll be over 2 years. And so we actually decided on her wedding to start trying, but we wanted to keep it a secret and we didn't want anyone to know. So after that, when people would ask us, like, oh, when are you guys gonna have kids? Like, it's been almost 2 years. We would be like, oh, no, not yet, not yet. But deep down, we were excited because we were already trying without anyone knowing, because we wanted to have the surprise and, yeah, like, to give the surprise to our family, like, hey, we're pregnant. Entonces no le dijimos a nadie that we were trying. Y it was just, we were excited, I guess, and we were hopeful. We were like, I think I was a little naive back then as to how hard it really is to get pregnant. So we tried for a month and we were like, come on, I thought I was pregnant, and I took a few tests and nothing. And I was like, okay, like, there's next month. And, month 2 came, and month 3 and 4. And I think at the 6 months, I was getting a little worried because I was like, why isn't it happening? Like, we Googled, like, just different, I don't know if my husband Googled, but I Googled, like, how to get pregnant, or like, what could I do to better help us, because it just wasn't happening and we didn't understand why. So I got, like, the little strips and the fertility ovulation sticks that you basically pee on. It tells you when you're ovulating. And, we baked cookies every other day, or we baked cookies, and, like, the next month we would try something new and bake cookies every day. Or we would just really do anything that I found online. And I had every test, I had every app. I was like, what is going on? Like, and then I found out how hard it really was. So I started, tracking everything and really trying to understand my body and, like, when could I get pregnant? And it just wasn't working, and it wasn't working. And at the time, we had a trip planned overseas to go to Italy. And, I told my husband I was getting worried, and I was like, should we go see a doctor? Like, is there something wrong with us? Like, I just kind of needed to get that out of my head. And I wanted a doctor to tell me, like, nope, you guys are fine. Like, maybe you're just overthinking it. And, like, maybe it was just the stress of everything. So we decided to pause having a baby, and if it happened, it happened. If it didn't, it's okay. We had this big trip, and there was a lot of planning to do, and we just decided to focus on that, and maybe we would be a little bit more relaxed and, get pregnant. And I remember we went, and, backtrack. Before we went, that I asked my husband if we should go see a doctor or go get checked out. He wanted to wait for the 1 year mark, and I was more like, I just need to know now. But he wanted to wait till the 1 year. So we compromised, and we said, just after the trip, if we didn't get pregnant, then we would go see a doctor and get checked out. And we were both okay with that. So we went on the trip and came back, nothing. There was a few months where I had missed my period, and or my period would come and it would last longer. So I was just so, I figured it was just my hormones and the stress of like just wondering why we weren't getting pregnant. So I just thought I had a lot of stress on myself. So when we came back from Italy, it had been 9 months because we went in September. So in September, we sat down and we talked and we were like, okay, like it's still not happening. We gave it another month and still nothing. And we said, you know what, like maybe we should go get checked out. And I think I actually pushed it a little bit more because there is just a lot of conversations and there's a lot to think about and a lot to really prepare yourself to go to the doctor. At least I did, and my husband. So antes de ir, tuvimos muchas pláticas de que si yo no puedo tener hijos, or que si mi esposo no puede tener hijos, like, how would we feel if it was the other person that couldn't have kids? Or it's funny to think about it now, knowing everything, but back then, like, we were really like, anything could happen. Like, we talked about whether it was me that couldn't have kids, like, what would we do? Would we do adoption? If it was him that had issues, how we felt about adoption, how we truly would feel. I feel like we gave ourselves some times to think about, like, you know, if it was him, how would I feel? Or if it was me, how would he feel? And it does put your marriage a little bit to the test because you don't know what can happen, but you have to be open to all possibilities, and you have to be vulnerable, and you have to be truly truthful with yourself about, you know, if you could still love the other person, knowing that there could be a problem with one of us of not being able to have kids, because we felt like something was off by trying for almost a year and nothing happening. And at this point, nobody knew we were trying. Like, all of our friends, all of our families, just thought that we didn't want them yet. And I think that's when it started hitting me more, because we were actively trying and we were trying to start a family, and people would siempre te dicen like, oh, ¿cuándo los vas a tener? ¿Cuándo van a llegar los bebés? ¿Cuándo? And it's like, I'm trying, dude. Like, sometimes I wanted to yell at them, or I wanted to be like, bro, it's not as easy as you think. Like, this is, like, it's just not working. It's not happening. But at the same time, we had the mentality of, like, it has to be a secret, and we're not going to tell anyone, and we want it to be a surprise. And, like, there was a lot of months where, like, I would skip a period, or I would, you know, feel dizzy, and, like, we would get excited, and the test always came back negative. So when you have these comments coming to you all the time, it can be so frustrating because you're like, I want it, it's not happening, and you're just at such a loss of pretty much everything you can think of. Like, why isn't it happening? You know, when is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? And it's just so much stress on your body and your mental health to always constantly be thinking about that. And like I said, ever since I was younger, I wanted a big family. So I wanted to start young, and I wanted to have several kids, and it just would get really frustrating for me because I'm like, why isn't it happening? Like, why? Like, why isn't it happening for me? So I remember we took a few months and we had some hard conversations, and it's not conversations that you just get answers to right away, like in a night. It's questions that you had to really sit with and analyze and just really be truthful with yourself and be truthful with my husband about, what if it was him? What if he wouldn't be able to give me kids and my dream is to have a family, or vice versa? Like, how would I feel with myself as a woman? How would I feel if I couldn't give him any kids? And there's a lot of questions that come up with that topic. Like, is he gonna love me? Can I love him? Like, if I can't give him kids, and you question a lot about yourself as a woman. Like, I remember talking with God and like preguntándole, like sitting there y hablando con él, diciéndole like, si no puedo tener hijos, ¿para qué sirvo? Like, as a woman, what am I good for? Why, like, if I can't have my own kids, if I can't bear my own kids, like, what am I good for? Like, I'm not a good wife if I don't provide kids for my husband. And this wasn't anything that he was saying to me. It was things that, like, you tell yourself and you question yourself. And every time I would take a test, or I would, keep trying, or it was hurtful and it was hard to get the negative test over and over and over again, and just being like, what the hell, body? Like, this is what you're made for. This is, you're a woman. You're supposed to have kids. You're supposed to carry your kids. You're supposed to give your husband kids. Like, this is what I thought I was supposed to do. And I think I hurt myself a lot by talking to myself like this. And I feel like it's normal to have these feelings. It's normal to think these things and to go through that at the end of the day. They are hard questions that you have to ask yourself, and you have to find your answers to them and come to the understanding of, hey, there's something not right, and go get checked out. And I think I also needed to get the courage to go, because I was terrified. I feel like it's one thing maybe thinking that something's wrong, like thinking that I can't have kids, or that maybe it's just me causing it. I'm just stressed out. I'm just this. Like, it's easier to believe those things than it was to go to the doctor. And I was terrified for the doctor to be like, hey, you're never going to be able to have kids, or you have a problem. And it was harder to face that at the time than to just keep believing like everything's fine. It's going to be okay. It's going to happen when it happens, and God has a plan. And I think it took me about 3 months to finally make the appointment with the OBGYN and get checked out. And we went and we sat down. We told her that we had been trying and nothing was happening. And we told her it had been over a year at this point, and it just wasn't happening for us. And we just wanted to get checked out to see if everything was okay with us. And we did some testing. So you actually have to get checked out. Like, both of us had to get checked out, my husband and myself. So he did his testing, and then I had to do some testing, and I had to make a appointment at the hospital to get checked out and stuff. And they basically just check that your ovaries are good and that like the sperm count and just all the normal things that go with it. And I think it took us that took a few months. Nothing's ever a fast process. Like, I thought I was going to go in and I was going to get the results like in the day or two, and I was going to stop worrying. And it's not like that. So I think we did about 2 to 3 months to get checked out, because you also have to work with the hospital schedule, and my husband had to go get checked out at a different place, and the woman has a little bit more testing to do, so I had to go to a few different clinics and hospital visits, so it took a little bit longer for them to do the testing and make the appointments, and then run, like, for them to check out the diagnosis, I guess, and get it back to the doctor, and then the doctor review it, and then sit with us and talk to us about it. So now it's been a few months, and at this point our friends and family still didn't know what was going on. And I remember we sat down and we were like, okay, sat down and with each other, and at this point we were terrified about what they were going to say, and we just felt like keeping it a secret at that point was too hard, because even our parents were asking us, like, when are the grandkids coming? Like, we want grandkids, or when are the babies? And it was just getting harder and harder to keep it a secret and to keep saying, like, no, not yet, not yet. And I remember that they called us that they had the results and they wanted to go over it with us. So we made the appointment and we decided that we wanted to share with our family what was going on. Because if it was something bigger and it was something not positive, we wanted the support from our family and we wanted someone to be there for us. So we decided to share the news with our family separately, and we just sat everyone down and basically said, like, hey, we've been trying for a year and it hasn't happened, and we went to go get checked out and they're doing some testing on us, and we just really need your support. And basically that we were scared. We didn't know what the outcome was going to be, and we just needed their support to go in for the results. And same with my family. We sat them down and told them everything, and just really told them that we had been doing a lot of questioning a lot and just answering the right questions, and just that we really had talked all of that through. So they had questions, and obviously it was a shock because I'm sure that wasn't the news that they were expecting. And yeah, so they were really supportive, and they said, when you find out, let us know. And I think we had the doctor's appointment the next week. So we were going in and we're going to be able to share the news with them and stuff. And they just told us, keep your head up. God has a timing for everything. Everything's going to be okay, and just put it in God's hands. And that's what we did. I remember we prayed and we just asked that whatever was going to happen, like, to be with us and to just give us the strength for whatever was coming. And I remember we went to the doctor, and it was the OBGYN, so it was in the afternoon. I believe the appointment was at 4 or 4:30. And we were there, and we were just, I remember being so nervous and just feeling like my heart was gonna come out of my chest, like when it's like when your heart is racing and you're just so nervous, obviously, about what's about to happen. And they took us to the room and they sat us down. We waited for the doctor to come in. And I remember I was probably there for maybe 5 minutes, before the doctor came, but it felt like an eternity. It felt like I was there for hours just waiting for her to come in and talk to us. And I remember she sat down and she looked at her notes. She opened her clipboard, she looked at her notes. And she told us that she went over my husband's, but she basically told us that it wasn't good news. And at that point, my heart sank. And she went over my husband's and said that he had issues. And then she told me that I had a fallopian tube closed, along with just that I wasn't fertile, I guess. And honestly, it was such a blur in the moment. I didn't understand everything. And when I tell you that she sat there for not even 5 minutes just telling us everything that was wrong with us. And then she closed her notebook and said, I'm just going to be frank with you guys. The chances of you guys having kids will be 1 in a million. And I just was in shock. I was like, what? And I feel like you can try to prepare yourself and you can try to do as much as you can to get the worst news possible. But when they're giving it to you in the moment, you're just like, I don't feel like there's a way to prepare yourself for that. But, so she told us that, and she said, do you guys have any questions? And we kind of just looked at each other, and we just shook our heads no, because we didn't know what to say. And she was like, okay, I'm gonna leave. She's like, I'm gonna give you guys a minute. And she walked out of the room, and I just looked at my husband, and I was just like, what just happened? I didn't understand. I didn't understand what she had said. I obviously understood the gist, but I feel like she told me that it wasn't good news. And I really got numb when she told me that the chances of us having kids was 1 in a million. And she was just so cold, and she basically said, there was nothing she could do for us. And she just walked out. And I don't even think I cried at the time. I was just in shock. I just couldn't believe it. And I remember that she came back in and she was like, do you have any questions? And I kind of just said, where do we go from here? Like, what do we do? And she said we could try IVF, but she said it would fail. She was like, there's nothing. And at that point, I think I just wanted to leave. Like, I just couldn't take the news and just to keep hearing that there was nothing for us. There was nothing that we could do. And me and my husband went to the car, and I think we sat there for a while, because it wasn't until we got in the car that it like just hit us all at once. And I remember just holding each other in our arms and hugging each other and just crying like little babies with each other, because we couldn't believe the news. We couldn't believe like everything that she had said, and it just felt so cold, and just, like, oh, here you go, here are your results, like, have a good day. There was nothing else. And thinking about what could have happened, like thinking before that it could have been him or it could have been me, and then finding out that it was both of us, like, we never even thought that was a possibility. Like, we thought it would have to be him or me, but like we never thought of, like, it was both of us. And it was just such a hard time in our lives. And then we had to go and tell our families what they told us, and like, I thought that was rock bottom for me, and I just thought it couldn't get any worse than that. So after that, we decided that we were gonna take a break. Like, we didn't think there was any hope for us, basically, because of how she made it seem. Like, there was just too many issues between us, and we just couldn't have kids. And after that, we decided we just wanted a break. It had been 2 years of trying, and we just wanted a break from everything, and didn't want to go see doctors. Like, I was terrified. Like, I was like, what's the point? They're just going to tell me the same thing. And everyone kept telling me, like, no, go get a second opinion. Go, like, don't let this be your only diagnosis. Go see someone else, and, don't let this tear you down. But just that whole experience, and that whole, just the way that she communicated with us, I was terrified to go back to a doctor. Like, I wanted nothing to do with having a baby, I just didn't want to go back. I was so traumatized to go into a doctor's office that I just did not want to put myself through that again. I didn't want to hear another doctor tell me that I was never going to be a mom, that I was never going to have my own kids, that there was nothing that they can do for me. Like, those words are traumatizing, and the execution that doctor did back then was just not right. And was just so cold and so mean, to be honest. Like, looking back, it was the worst way that you could tell somebody this news and just let them go off and do nothing for them. So after, like I said, after that, I was very traumatized and very, just did not want to listen to anybody. I was so angry and I was sad, and I just had every emotion possible. Like, I just didn't know what to do at that point. I felt so lost and scared, and the only people that knew about what was going on was my family, my husband's family, and I think our compadres knew at the time. So it was a very small circle that knew what was going on in the beginning. And that was only because we wanted to prepare us in case we got bad news. And thank God we did, because I don't know what we would have done without them. I don't know how we would have reacted, like, not knowing that our family already knew prior to us getting the news and prior to us, finding out how drastic it was. I thank God that we chose to tell them before.